Well, it's just become normalized, hasn't it? And like that's the unfortunate thing is, drinking and being hungover in Australian culture is just normal. And then when you step away from it, like you understand how much better life can be. And you like the energy levels that you have, and you wake up and you're feeling fresh, and like your levels of clarity are just like you're just focused on business and you're smashing it.
Tradies and contractors making over $50,000 a month in revenue. I will guarantee you 30 qualified leads in the space of 90 days, or it is free. You heard that right. It's 30 qualified leads in the space of 90 days, or it's free. And you're probably sitting here thinking, what the heck? That's a 10x result on what I'm currently getting from my marketing. And that's the point. We have finally cracked the code. We've got this amazing new process. It is working, and we are absolutely rolling this out big time. Head across to tradie.wiki/offer. That's tradie.wiki/offer. Fill in the form, book a time to have a chat, and we look forward to helping you grow. Ciao. Luke, welcome to the Sideshed podcast.
Thanks, buddy. It's good to be on here for the second or third time around.
I feel like we're walking on eggshells here, so we're just going to try and roll the dice. Bit of tech issues.
Yeah, that's why Tradie should just stay on the tools sometimes, I reckon.
Mate, welcome to the show. I just actually read through the email intro you sent me before we jumped on this call, and I was just thinking how relevant and what a good topic this is, because I've never covered anything like this, and I've got a bit of, I suppose, insight to this recently myself in the space of some of the things we're going to talk about today with the detrimental habits that we sort of get tied into, especially here in Australia. There's a bit of a culture related with things that I suppose sometimes we should probably do less of.
Yeah, definitely agreed.
And it kind of becomes, I guess, I mean, I'm sure you're going to get into this and got a lot more experience with this than I do. But like, I've recently stopped drinking for a couple of months just purely because I wanted to focus on some big goals that I had with work, and I just didn't want to be cloudy. And truthfully, I don't really drink a huge amount anyway because I've got two little kids, and it's a punish, like trying to attend to them at 3 a.m. when you've had a few too many drinks. But like, it's amazing how much, even just taking two and a bit months off drinking, like how much you realize it's part of your identity. And like, you go out to hang out with mates or something, and they just think you're like an alien because you're not drinking, and it's just like that. And sometimes even like I had some mates that didn't even want to come around because they knew that I was off the booze. Like we'd have like we'd have like nights here. Like I've got like a bit of a boys setup here, with like darts and archery and like whiskey and all this stuff, and no one wanted to come around because I wasn't drinking whiskey or whatever. So
yeah.
I was like, wow, it's really become part of my identity.
Yeah, not just your own identity, but just like culture, isn't it? It's like, I mean, you can go into depth about the insecurities of why we drink and being uncomfortable in social situations, but it's just culture. Just like it becomes part of what we do, and it's like, oh, that's weird if you don't do it. It's like, well, kind of not.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, there's obviously, like this whole conversation is very, I suppose, individualistic with people. Like everyone has their own experience with these things, and I don't know if it's necessary. Like I'm a firm believer of just taking things in, not overdoing it. Like little things at a time, kind of thing. You don't need to go overboard with it. And I guess for some people, it's not that case. Like some people, with these addictive personalities and whatever, and like it's probably better that they can it all together. I can't really relate to that though. I've never experienced that sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd agree, man. Like it's everything in amounts, right? But I feel like, even my story where it started was I was every weekend, like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, like getting on the booze, getting on the bags, getting on like this constant cycle from 18 to 26, and it just becomes yeah, like you said, like you take 2.5 months off, and the clarity that you get, and just like the focus and drive that you get from not doing these things, it's just like a numbing agent to what's potential in your like a potential in your life. And yeah, man, I think it's like I still enjoy a drink here, and I still the occasional night out. I'm not against it. I think it's healthy to have those nights in between just to sort of remember how shit you feel the next day. But
Just in moderation.
yeah, exactly. But I think it's hard to. Well, for me, someone like me, I have an addictive personality. Well, I did anyway before I did all this work, and that was like you have one and then you have two, and it's never just one. You always end up absolutely smashed, and it's 4 a.m. in the morning, and you're still going and you're looking for the next packet or whatever it is. So I didn't know how to handle moderation, and I know a lot of tradies don't either. So I guess it's just like figuring out what works best for you. And then, but like not shaming yourself about it either. Not being like, oh, you're a fucking dickhead for doing this. Just being like, okay, cool. Where's room for me to improve?
Yeah, it's a tough line in the sand, I suppose, that you've got to draw internally in order to take that step. And that's the hardest part, right? It's like taking that step because, and like you say, you don't really need to, you shouldn't have to hide it. Like I know at one point, like I went through something like 20 odd years ago. And at that point in time, I sort of just completely disassociated myself with an entire group of friends for the space of like 18 months. So I was like, if I'm ever back around that group, it leads me down the wrong path. And I just don't want to be. And like, I look at that now and I go, man, that was just like, you were just being a chicken shit because you just didn't know how to like man up and confront it properly and say no, Whereas now I just go, no.
Yeah, yeah,
But now
yeah.
I'm old
Like,
and
yeah,
wise.
yeah. You've lived a life. I think like it's an interesting one, isn't it? And like I hear therapists and stuff talk about like junkies and like when they go through therapy and they go to what do they call it? Like, where they go?
Like AA,
Yeah, and like where do they go? Like
rehab.
rehab, right? And then whenever they go back, the time that they relapse is the environment that they surround themselves in. So it's like, yeah, there is a line between distancing yourself from an environment, and I think when you first go down the path of wanting to better yourself and not drink and not get on the drugs, like that is a good idea because you'll find that half the time it's not you that wants to do it. You're just in the environment. Everyone, like, once again, it comes back to the culture. It's like, yeah, let's just have a few, like, let's just talk shit. And then it becomes fucking, oh, yeah, all right, I'm already in the situation now. Like, let's just go.
So tell us a bit how about what you do and how you got to where you're at now, because you've been on a bit of, you mentioned before, you touched on a few little things within your journey, but yeah, you got a pretty cool initiative you have underway these days, don't you?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've done a lot of personal development work. I've done a lot of trauma clearing work throughout my life. And I came to the realization that I want to, create a better world. And I know from the fact that relatability wise and what I've been through, I can help tradies because I've from everything like you can think of in the trade industry, I've done it. Like working in commercial, working in domestic, starting my own business, scaling that to 7 figures, doing podcasts, doing personal development, doing everything in between. I can do it. And I feel like I can relate to a lot of tradies. So for me, it's just like seeing what the industry's been like, being in it myself, understanding what needs to change and what can be improved on, and then just being like, fuck, why not be the voice that can help people become better? Because I have a vision for the future that, it's focused around men being better men, being like more grounded, being more like strong within self, like you were speaking about earlier, how you've just, you get past that point of, needing all these impulsive things, and then, being able to live a better life and create your own business or do whatever that looks like in the future. So for me, that's what I want to do. I just want to create a better industry. I see a greater industry that we all know can exist.
Yeah, that's it. And you know what? So much of the issues that I see, I mean, even from my day back in the trades, I feel like there's like, it's almost systemic, like so much of, and so many of these problems that are around, which are like related to, drugs or drinking or gambling and whatever it might be. Like so much of that is kind of like just passed on systemically through generations and through industries, and it almost becomes the norm. And I kind of feel like if there's one good thing that social media has done today, it's sort of brought an awareness to like peripherals in that space, where before, when you didn't have all that stuff, you were basically exposed to whoever you hung out with at work, and then all of a sudden you kind of have these broader pictures and realizations of alternatives.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. And I think the interesting thing about being a tradie is it's like the camaraderie when you're on site, you're having a good time, but you're working so hard, like physically demanding, and then you've also got the mental capacity as well of having to work things out and problem solve. It's a long week. It's like I get it. At
Mm.
the end of a long fucking week, I get why it's culture. Just, I want to crack a beer. Like I've had a long week, I'm tired, I'm exhausted. This is just a relief. But like we said earlier, it's not being able to moderate and be able to do things in small doses. It's just like, let's fucking go as soon as we have that first beer.
I think as well, like the reality is, and I don't know if this is just like as a result of me getting older or whatever. I don't want that beer or 2 beers or 10 beers to affect like other areas of my life, like professionally, for example. I don't want to be cloudy and like make poor calls because I've, had too many whiskeys one night, or I don't want to like not be able to get up and go to the gym in the morning because I feel too shit because I'm too hungover or whatever it might be. And then, so there becomes like this, I guess, for me anyway, it's like this battle of it's one or the other.
Mm.
And so now I've got a fridge full of non-alcoholic beer, and people come around, they're like, "What?" Like,
Yeah.
it's because I still enjoy having a beer on a Friday night, but I just don't want to wake up with a hangover.
Yeah. Well, it's just become normalized, hasn't it? And like, that's the unfortunate thing is it drinking and being hungover in Australian culture is just normal.
Mm.
And then when you step away from it, like you understand how much better life can be. And you like the energy levels that you have, and you wake up and you're feeling fresh, and like your levels of clarity, you're just focused on business and you're smashing it.
Mm.
And once you get a taste of it, it's like, okay, I'm going to be addicted to that taste instead of the taste of waking up and feeling like a dickhead on a Saturday or Sunday morning.
I'm really interested in your take on like the doing things. I firmly believe that. I mean, again, different types of personalities. Mine is not even remotely addictive, and you were saying that you did come from that. Like, I can easily just not drink for a couple of months, not have a problem with it. Focus real hard on something, set a goal, hit it, and then go and celebrate, have your beers or whatever, and like sort of work in like these cycles. Like
Mm,
I find it very hard to be on all the time.
mm.
I am never on all the time. Like I'll hit things within like a few months and just smash the heck out of things, and then I'll just be like just chill,
Yeah,
like and just
yeah,
so like that. But I'm sort of in control. I feel like I'm in control of it, and
mm,
again, having two little kids is a real. It's quite sobering, Like
mm,
you,
yeah,
it's the last thing you want to have to deal with.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I guess
Like,
that level of responsibility as well is something that kind of is always playing in the back of your mind. It's like, well, no, don't you can't you literally cannot have any more beers because like you got to drive home or you got little ones to take care of. You got to
yeah,
shower and feed and that kind of carry on.
yeah. Well, I mean, like you said it real well. Life ebbs and flows, right? So I'm similar now. So if I look back to who I was and who I am now, my personality isn't so addictive. You look at it back at like why I was drinking back then, and it was a bunch load of insecurities and childhood trauma that I was dealing with, and like this need to people please all the time. Like half the time I was out for the fact that I wanted friends. It was
Mm.
never about what I wanted. It was always about the external. It was never about the internal. So now, when like I can go enjoy drinks, and I had probably like 6 or 7 on the weekend, and that was over an entire day, and I was like, cool, it's time to go home. I'm good now. And I think that takes like a little bit of time of getting used to, and like a little bit of conditioning into getting into that sort of personality or that identity where you can become that and you can just be okay with having drinks. But like when you first start, I think sometimes you need to just go cold turkey and fight through the pain for a little bit.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, it's. I think one of the big things, and I appreciate how hard that is for some people when they've got like, and again, like for you guys out there listening to this or watching this, like I get it. Like when your entire social circle, identity, whatever it is tied up in a circle that has always done something a certain way or has expected something, like, no, we go to the pub on Fridays and we drink 10 schooners. That's what we do. Like
Mm.
we've always done that. Like it's a hard thing to break because like where else do you go if that's your entire circle of influence?
Yeah. No, you're all gonna. It's just like it's difficult to break free from an environment and find a new one, especially overnight. Like it's not something that you've bonded with these people for 10, 15, 20 years, however long it's been, and then you sort of wake up and start to realize that hey, this isn't. I'm feeling a little bit like an outcast here. I don't want to be constantly doing the same thing over and over and over again, which is kind of where I was at. But yeah, like you said, I have a lot of empathy, because it's not fucking easy to just wake up one day and go, nah, I'm not doing this.
One thing I do find though is, and truthfully, this is probably not a good approach because it kind of plays to there being an excuse not to do things the way you did. But like if I have something that I'm working towards, if I'm training for something, or if I'm like got work focus and I don't want to drink, I'll use that as the reason to not engage. Where in reality, you shouldn't really have to have an excuse, like it should just be, well, no, I just don't want to anymore.
Yeah. But it's always good to have a dark side to head to the light, there's not one without the other. So, yeah. But like, look, if you can channel it without having to look at it in a shameful way, because like I don't look back at my past and go, fuck, you're an idiot. Like I look past and go, okay, that's what I needed to do in that time. I needed to exert that energy in a way for me to learn and grow into the individual that I am now. So it's like, fuck, you've got a beautiful story right now. I don't think there's anything wrong with drinking and doing bags every weekend. It's like, okay, cool. Maybe you don't want to do that now. Maybe you want to, like evolve into the next evolution of yourself and become a better person. And that's fucking awesome. I hate when it's like shamed upon, because like life's fucking tough, like there's a lot of tough shit going on. So I can understand why you want to have a drink here and there. Like I get it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the key. Just having like being in control and doing things within moderation. I mean, I was the same. Like I partied like an absolute fucking rock star, man. For years, loved it, but just grew out of it eventually. I just got bored and it started affecting training and performance. And I was like, it's not really worth it. Then as you get older, married, kids, blah, 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 that kind of stuff, businesses, like things just take priority.
Yeah.
And, one of the big things for me, and again, like it's a hard thing. And I relate to people that aren't in the situation. Like we just packed up and left where we lived. Like we got right out of Sydney and moved up the North Coast and we didn't have anyone. And so that made life easy because I had no one to go to the pub with anyway.
Yeah.
So the wildest nights we have are like sitting around the fire drinking, a couple of glasses of Shiraz or something,
Oh shit. Yeah, like you do that. It's good to avoid, but then you get to a point where you realize, or if you want to, but like you got to integrate into new societies and like you got to welcome new people in, and that's where it gets uncomfortable again. But I don't mind that, just leaving and heading up north.
I reckon the like really like from my point of view though, for like people out there that if that's you, if you've got like bad habits and things, or more to the point, you need to develop better habits. Let's put it that way. There's a lot of really good resources around to help do that. Like, I mean, I'm sure you've read it, Atomic Habits. Like that book just changes everything. Like it's just such a great way to help you formulate process within your life to develop positive habits. Like I just love that book. And there's so many other books like it, and places you can go to. But essentially, like for it to happen, you have to decide. Like no one can motivate you to want to do it. Like I remember going through this myself, and I was like, man, every time I drink now, I just feel shit. I just feel shit. Like not even like hungover shit, just like a dark cloud shit, And I'm just like, I'm just going to stop doing this.
Yeah. Well, because you realize like how well you can perform and the energy levels that you can have. Like fuck the amount of times that I've wanted to get home after a long day at work and have a beer, but it's like no, I'll hit the gym, I'll cook a nice meal because like as soon as you hit the gym, you cook a better dinner and then you have a better sleep and it's just like a cycle. But if you have that beer, you parked on the couch and you're feeling miserable and feeling fat and you're just like
I mean, there's loads of research too, which I mean, I don't know if it's entirely true about how. I don't know if you've followed much of Craig Ballantyne's stuff or Perfect Day Formula, but like, he's a big no booze advocate these days, and it's all the science around how you sleep better when if you don't have alcohol in your system and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's ever really been my experience, but it's probably truth. I mean, essentially, you're just poisoning yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, no, like I hear about that all the time. They say even just like one drink, one beer is the same as having 5 beers. But when it comes to sleep, like there's no difference as soon as whatever the chemicals are in it or
She may as
whatever.
well have 5.
Yeah, well, you may as well. Sure, if you want to feel even worse the next day, go for it. I was actually listening to this podcast the other day, and this guy ran 200 miles or something, and he was just like said that exact same thing. He's like, yeah, if I ever like going to have one, I'm going to end up having 5 because just like it's the exact same. It's going to affect my sleep the same way. So I was like, fair enough.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
Interesting.
This guy's running fucking ultra marathons, so good on him.
Yeah, man. Yeah, so I mean, what does the process look like? Like, what are you doing out there? Is it a program or?
Yeah, so I mean, currently at the moment, I'm just doing like a 2-day event, but targeted at trade business owners or anyone that's like a tradie working for someone looking to start their own thing or just get into the business side of things. Where because my event's more about changing the individual instead of just giving them the business stuff. Because you'll find a lot of business coaching out there. It's just like, yeah, do this, and this, and then it's like even like you talking about atomic habits. It's like yeah, I could read that, but if they're not ready for that, like they're not going to implement anything that they fucking read. It's just like a book to
Totally,
them. So
100%.
for me, it's like there's a 2-day event where we go, okay, the first day and a half are just like values, vision, mission, legacy. Who do you want to be? Like, what is your vision for the future? And then get super clear on that. And then we spend half a day just smashing out a business plan for the future. And then also what I'm working towards as well for like, because I really do want to help as many people as I can for the future, which isn't right now. I want to start speaking to companies and start speaking on stage to as many traders as I can and just help them wake up, like you said, raise the awareness, help them wake up to a little bit more about what's possible. And I just want to build like a lot of better cultures on site because like when I had my company, one thing that I focused on the most was like just culture, making sure my guys were happy, they were working hard and doing the right thing, obviously with a bit of, harshness to keep them going, but to create a culture where guys can rock up to site, they fucking want to be there, they're energized about the day and they're having a good time instead of being like, oh, I don't know if I want to be like, go to my boss, like he's a fucking dickhead, like he just yells and abuses me. I don't want to be in those toxic environments. So yeah, just really just trying to make the industry a better place.
It's amazing how, like, as well, like the fish rots from their head down. Like you really see. Like we've got a couple of young guys working with me now, like locally. I mean, we've got quite a big team offshore, and it's very hard to maintain that culture. It's very hard for them to see like your lifestyle, and the choices that you make in order to make better decisions and have better outcomes.
Yeah.
There's a couple of young guys working with us now locally. Like they do kind of see more of, the decisions and I suppose, why decide to do things. And that is kind of like you can see them taking that sort of stuff on board, which is good because like I didn't really have that influence, back when I was their age. And it's, again, you sort of you're led down paths according to, who you hang out with and who you take advice from and whatever. And like, whether you like it or not as a business owner, like that is very often you're kind of the people they go to for, whether consciously or subconsciously, like they're looking to you for leadership and they're looking to you for like habits and see how you do things. And, that stuff rubs off on people.
Yeah. And I like what you said, man. It's exactly why I run my events in person because the level of connection that you'll get online, it's never the same, right? Like you're saying, you've got guys offshore, like you don't have that connection and they don't get to see what you're doing on your everyday to day. Because like, I'm not going to fucking post on my social media everything that I'm eating every day, the training that I'm doing, all the regimes that I've got. Because I'm like, I'm not going to fucking post that. But when you're like spending time with someone and like they see you for who you are and they see the health and the confidence showing through, it's like, okay, fuck, that's someone that I want to like work towards being. And that's the beauty about in-person stuff. And that, that might limit my numbers, but for me, the change starts small and like it ripples itself out. So
yeah, totally. Cool, man. Well, look, it's been a good chat. Is there anything you wanted to discuss any further?
Look, not really, man. I'm happy to keep this short and sweet, but I just, if like you guys are looking to watch me, I got some vlogs that I'm fucking chucking around. I'm trying to create some fun stuff and trying to, yeah, just get my message out there as much as I can and help anyone that I can. Like I'm always just open to having a conversation with anyone that's listening that wants to grow their business or just wants to get themselves in a better headspace about partying on the weekends and better in their life and whatever that may be. So I'm always open for a chat. It doesn't have to be salesy. It doesn't have to be anything like that. I just want to help you out.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's much the same as the reason why the site sheet exists. It's there as a resource for people to basically fall on and connect with people like yourselves. And yeah, if you guys are out there and you like you are struggling with any of that sort of stuff, then reach out to someone. Like you've got Luke here. I'm always happy to connect with you through the Facebook group and that kind of stuff. Like it's not like it's an uncommon conversation. To be fair,
Yeah,
I'd be surprised if there's many people exposed to any sort of trade coming through the system that have not sort of had that kind of realization.
yeah, for sure. It's definitely more awareness.
And if you
around it
haven't
now.
yet, it's probably coming. Although to be
Yeah,
fair, it's almost, I imagine we're probably preaching to the choir to a degree. People that are sort of listening to this are probably largely a bit more in control, or I don't know, maybe not.
yeah, that's fair enough, man.
Cool. All right, man. Well, it's been good. Thanks
No
for
worries.
coming aboard. Where can people get hold of you? Is your website?
Yeah, so my website's almost up and running. It should be up and running in the next week, but just follow me on Instagram, The Conscious Tradie, or on YouTube, The Conscious Tradie. Got content posting out every day. So
The Conscious Tradie.
The Conscious Tradie, yeah.
Nice.
Chuck it in the bio below.
Rock and roll. All right,
Beautiful.
man. Well, thanks for your time.
Appreciate it, matey. Thanks, mate.
Keep up the good work.
No worries. Cheers.
I hope you enjoyed that episode of the SiteShed podcast. If you like the sound of 30 qualified proposals in the space of 90 days, I just want to recap. Head across to tradie.wiki/offer. Watch the videos, fill in the form, and make sure you book a time to have a chat with me. This is for businesses that are making $50,000 a month in revenue, are located in Australia, New Zealand, Canada, or the USA, and you're a trade business or a contractor that works with project-based work. Head across to tradie.wiki/offer. Yes, I realize it sounds too good to be true. Trust me, it works. Do it now. I look forward to chatting to you soon. Ciao.